Guys, 2 weeks ago we talked about how Final Fantasy XI's overall experience could have been improved and made better. In theory, not with actual practice. Nobody's going to implement any of the ideas I had. But you guys are constantly bringing up one element that got me thinking. In Final Fantasy XI's greatest years, were low-man leveling groups truly viable? And was I just being affected by stigma? Let's talk about it. Guys, whenever I criticize Final Fantasy XI's low-man experience, just having a couple party members to hop around and do stuff with you, especially when it relates to experience points, someone will hop out of the woodwork to inevitably argue that that experience was already good, and I just either wasn't good enough to get it, or I just didn't see the opportunity. My argument back then has always been that it is true definitely for certain job combinations. Dragoon Mage, ninjas in general, a lot of things once Dancer Sub became an option became a little bit more viable, but overall still wasn't quite enough to push the general feeling of like, yeah, we can level with just 2 to 3 people very effectively. Poor White Mages got the shaft. I mean, they're not bringing really enough to the table in terms of damage to push those. I would have loved to have seen a crazy decked out White Mage doing Hexus strikes with like the hobby with like 2 or 3 people seeing what kind of... Anyways. Point being, I think certain job combinations do it really well and others don't. And this has always been part of my argument of why I level 11, is that certain jobs are better at soloing, duoing, trioing, and it was sort of some of the flavor that those jobs had versus the party-centric jobs like Bard, which are going to be amazing for every party, but maybe not so for low-man groups. That is a positive. I'm not saying it's a negative. But I do think it holds back the overall concept that you can just say like, yeah, you could easily hop in with whatever jobs you guys want it to be, within reason, get 2 to 3 players and level effectively. Guys, did I just skip Beast? I was talking about a bunch of jobs that are good for like soloing and doing, and I forgot about Beastmaster. I was like, yeah, Dragoon Mage, pinnacle of experience points gaining alone. I do love Dragoon Mage. It's one of my favorite experiences. But yeah, Beast, obviously, another one. Anyways, let's take a step back for a second, because I think I know what my problem is with the leveling experience. I'm going on and on about like why it's good, why it's bad. My issue with it in a low person group comes down to this next point. But let's do some math real quick so everybody understands, like, because you're not going to get the numbers that you expect. Say you get 5K an hour in a standard party. Let's assume that it takes, on average, this could go higher or lower depending on what job you are, day of the week, just luck. Let's say it takes you an hour to get out to that party and actually start gaining experience. We'll even add in, just to ease it towards the soloing experience a little bit more, that the first hour as you're getting rolling is probably only going to be like 4K an hour as you kind of get up to speed with each other and figure out the rhythm and what's going on. So out of 3 hours of partying, this will obviously lean towards partying the longer you continue to party. But if you party for 3 hours, and the first hour is just getting together, getting to camp, you'll gain 0 XP for the first hour, 4K for the second hour, and 5K for the third hour. Ultimately, 9K of experience for 3 hours of time spent in-game. Soloing, duoing, trioing, if you can get, let's say the high end, let's say 2K an hour. 2K for the first hour, there would be some time to get out to camp, but let's just, whatever. You could have logged out there as part of the benefit. You just log out the camp, you guys log back in, you're getting experience. 2K for the first hour, 2K for the second hour, 2K for the third hour. You guys don't need to get into a rhythm because you're that solid, you're that good with each other. That's 6K. That's probably the high end. But if you can get 6K total over 3 hours versus 9K total over 3 hours for a full party, that could have had issues, could have gone ups and downs, no guarantees, camp might have not been open, it could have been longer than an hour waiting, might have been less too. But ultimately, that's sort of the benefit of the fewer people you involve, the more consistent that experience will be. That's a good ratio. If you get 2/3 of the amount of total experience over the same amount of time, it doesn't matter that you're only getting 2K an hour versus 5K an hour. You were getting it consistently, starting sooner, starting faster, on your time, on your schedule. That's a good ratio. I'm not discounting that like 2K an hour in Final Fantasy XI would have been perfectly fine in the era that you're getting on average like 5K an hour in a good party for a duo or trio to like effectively level on their own. Like that's pretty decent. So you're asking yourself, Hunter, you just said 2 seconds ago you had a problem and then listed this amazing comparison. First of all, you can't always get 2K an hour, but ignoring that, your job combinations can. What bothers me about that is that it feels terrible. 2K an hour the way Final Fantasy XI works, and here we're getting to the point, feels awful. Because when you're doing that in a party getting 5k an hour, you're doing that utilizing the concepts of experience points chains. Part of that amazing feeling of leveling in Final Fantasy XI when you're in a party is like, you're like, yes, we hit chain 1, chain 2, chain 3. At level 25, this is as high as we can get. We're back to chain 1, chain 2, chain 3. And then you get to like, I don't know, crawler stats. You're like, chain 1, 2, 3, 4 occasionally. That's fantastic. By the 50s and 60s, you're like, chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're flying. And then it kicks over. And by, merit parties, chain 130. You never stop as long as nobody has to go to the bathroom. Or sometimes, even if they do, hold on without them. But I'm babbling. The frustrating part, the reason that I keep looking back and saying, why, with the numbers kind of working out in our favor, was I so frustrated by the low man experience? It's because you don't have that amazing, rewarding feeling of the experience points chains. Rarely can you kill even matches or toughs, and I forget where even matches. I feel like a party of 6 can't kill an even match for chain. So, can a party of 3? Regardless, you can't kill them fast enough in general to get a good chain going. Maybe a chain 1, maybe. But it's often more efficient to just pound your way through some decent challenges, or the occasional even match. If Final Fantasy XI had allowed for chaining of mobs at the easy prey, decent challenge, and obviously even match level, only to a certain extent of like number of people in a party, I think it would have made the lower man experience a lot more rewarding personally. I don't think it would have changed the overall experience gain that much. Maybe just enough to make it like totally viable. But even for the lower levels, as like a little soloing pleb, just like under level 10, trying to figure things out, seeing the experience points chain would have been an amazing feeling. Like, wait, what just happened? I think you can see it at like level 1 if you solo the even matches, because everything's an even match at level 1, and you get 2 in a row. You're like, what was that? And then you don't see it for 10 more levels because you can't do it ever again. You're like, oh, what happened? That was amazing. I just think it would have made the low man experience a lot more fun. Now, a lot of people argue that Square Enix intentionally kind of discouraged this because it would have killed camps. Because popular camps would have still been popular for low man groups, and all of a sudden duos, trios would have been trying to populate all the normally popular camps, while bigger groups like would have to struggle against them. I'm not sure about that argument. I think Final Fantasy XI is a big enough world, Vana'diel's huge, that we would have found those spots to take advantage of, even in low man groups, versus a full party, which will always be, in my mind, for this to work, would always have to be faster and more efficient. Every time. I was just thinking about this. I was like, you know what? They're right. Numbers wise, soloing, duoing, trioing with certain job combinations is incredibly effective, but it always didn't feel that way. And that's what I keep coming back to, is Final Fantasy XI was such a rewarding feeling. Like everything you would do when you time skill chains perfectly, magic bursts, when you would get those experience chains, it felt great when you were soloing and doing and just getting decent XP, but without that like constant like chain. It felt awful, and I never wanted to do it. Occasionally I would. I remember Epic and I duoed as a Dragoon Mage and a Ninja once in Ottergon, and we were doing great. We were getting like 2 to 3k an hour, which was really solid, but it felt kind of miserable. Like we were just kind of like, this is going okay, I guess. But looking back, like the numbers were great. But yeah, some sort of scaling system that allowed you to chain lower tiered enemies with lower number of party members in the group. I don't know how they would scale it, but it would even help with the situation where like a 4-man group or a 5-man group can't quite seem to get that last party member, can't handle very toughs or incredibly toughs, but could handle toughs very well. But I feel like the tough chaining it was never very effective XP-wise. I don't know. That's a whole other question. But the lower end, easy prey, decent challenge, is a little bit of an interesting argument for low man groups. I would have loved to see how this would have affected the overall experience, both how it feels and the experience chains that you get. And a lot of you might be asking, like, why are you bringing up this dead horse? Like, who cares? And that's a good point. It's never going to change. And I'm talking about how the game used to be. The game, currently, you can do low man very effectively because of trust. So, like, why is the conversation? Because it's fun. But no, seriously, my time with World of Warcraft's latest leveling update and how they handled the leveling squish and scaling and overall synchronization process to allow you to level with friends through old expansions has been fantastic. By the way, definitely check out the video that I did last week on that experience if you've been even remotely interested in going back to WoW or checking it out for the first time, kind of like I am. Check it out. It's pretty cool. And then after checking out the actual syncing system with Mog and Epic last night on stream about like quests that one or the other have already done and now could redo with a friend, I'm totally sold that I think it's the best group leveling experience that's currently out there in MMOs. I'll stand by that. Speaking of which, if you didn't know, we do stream every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Twitch. Definitely come check us out. Say hi. Bring your thoughts. If you want to bash me for playing WoW instead of Final Fantasy 7, that's the best place to do it. Definitely come to stream and do that while we were playing some WoW. Nah, I'm just messing around. But seriously, come stop by. We have a ton of fun. But guys, to get back to it, to kind of take this from a different angle, the feeling of Final Fantasy 11, of playing in the world, the universe of Vana'diel, is one of the best I've ever experienced, to this day. It didn't feel like I was playing a game. It felt like I was playing a world that I was invested in playing a world. I was entering a world and being invested in it. I've never gotten that feeling with any other MMO, including WoW, partially because whenever I play WoW, whenever I play Final Fantasy 14, I feel like I'm playing a game. When I enter in, there's so many mechanics that allow me to easily get ramped up and just like start playing the game very quickly and take me out of some of the immersion, to be honest. In 11, like the real world, you always had to, there were like so many steps. You had to get a cup of coffee, catch a train, check up on the auction house. I mean, I'm making those first two up, but there were always like so many little things you had to do before you could go out into the wilds, because it might be a while before you'd come back. Traveling was very difficult and slow. But this week has reminded me that when it comes to just hopping in and playing a game with friends, the new WoW experience has it beat. It was just so easy for us to quickly be in a party, quickly be leveling. Once we figured out sync, quickly be doing quests together that benefited both of us, even though one of us had already done those quests. I'm not saying that the WoW leveling experience is overall superior to 11. I would never say that on this channel. No, but I also don't believe that. I love the Final Fantasy 11 leveling experience of parties against mobs, just grinding it out over time. But I do think there's a way to bring in some of those concepts of like, well, hang on, part of the critically amazing part to that was that we hopped in and the three of us, well, two of us, Epic did have to do the start again, but that was his choice. Epic, we're getting you into a dungeon. We could quickly be grouped up, leveling, and playing together in moments. I think there's a balance there that Final Fantasy 11 really could have benefited from. It was a different era of gaming, and obviously, like I said, today with the trust system, you can. But that's where I wish there had been that sort of midway tier, and I think experience point chains in low-man groups could have done it. But let me know your thoughts. Have I gone totally off the rails with this one? Would experience points chains have done nothing really for the lower man experience? Do you still have that problem of, you know, a white mage, bard, and red mage enter a bar and order a drink? I don't know, I saw a joke coming there, but there wasn't one. No, but seriously, if you have those three jobs, they're gonna have a pretty slow trioing experience. Is that just part of the charm of what 11 is, that certain jobs are better at certain things and maybe not as good at other things? Or could that have been tweaked a little bit? Like I said, join us on Tuesdays and Thursdays on Twitch to bring your comments and just talk it out. I love talking about this stuff. I think theory crafting like this is tons of fun, especially looking forward towards new MMOs coming out that are trying to take some of the concepts that have been lost, like Pantheon Rise of the Fallen is trying to bring back sort of that old school EverQuest feel while introducing modern amenities to make it more approachable and enjoyable. I think conversations like this can help find that balance of like, how do you keep the feel, the amazing experience that 11 was, while bringing in some new stuff? Or leave your thoughts in the comments. I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say. Otherwise, keep gaming, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace out. How stores work?
These systems work.
I think that's the intent of the quest.
Yeah, I'm still not learning.
You got it.
The quest is 2 objectives: buy something from the merchant and sell things to the merchant. And Epic's sitting there like, this is impossible. It can't be done.
This makes no sense. I don't like it on keyboard. It makes no sense on keyboard.